Hello, my name is Mrs. B. Gonzalez, and this is STAAR History Blitz, Age of Reform. Here you'll see some of the reform movements that we'll be discussing today. Let's start off with what is social reform. Social reform is when society is trying to actively make a change for the better. They see things that are wrong in our society and they want to improve them. The very first reform movement that took place in North America was the Second Great Awakening. This was a religious revival, a movement where people started to join religion again, open their eyes, see that there are injustices that are wrong, start to think of, hey, you know what? I want to be able to choose the religion and the leaders that are preaching to me, but I also want to have a part in making an active change in our society. Another reform movement led by women was the Temperance Movement. Women were against the consumption of alcohol for many different reasons. People were abusing, drinking alcohol, and this caused poverty, violence, domestic abuse, public disorder, all kinds of social problems. And so this group of women decided to fight against that and try to end the consumption of alcohol. So again, this was known as the Temperance Movement. Dorothea Dix was one of the main reform movement leaders who played a significant role in advocating and supporting for the humane treatment of individuals with mental illness. In the mid-19th century, she started to do a lot of research and saw that the conditions where mentally ill individuals were being kept were terrible. So she fought to make better establishments, better facilities for these asylums because they were known as insane asylums. She also said we need to start funding research and education to find out how we can better treat these individuals, as well as prison reform, and said there needs to be rehabilitation for these people in prison and the conditions in which they live need to be improved. So again, this was Dorothea Dix. The next individual is Horace Mann, who was one of the main leaders of education reform, also known as the father of the Common School movement. He played a really important role in advocating for public education for all students. Not only did he want all children of all social classes to go to school, but also for teachers to get educated, to have training on what it is to be a good educator. Women's suffrage movement was fueled by fighting for the right of not just equal rights, but the right to vote. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony were prominent American suffragists and social reformers. They played a crucial role in advocating for women's rights and were key figures in the early women's suffrage movement. They had a huge convention in Seneca Falls in New York where they got a group of individuals who were all fighting for the right to vote, and they declared that they should have equal rights as men, including the right to vote. They called this the Declaration of Sentiments and said all men and women are created equal. Another movement during this time was known as Transcendentalism. Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson were the main leaders of this movement. And Transcendentalism is going beyond the material world and also doing what's right even though it's wrong. Henry David Thoreau lived in the woods for over a year, wrote the book Walden, was all about nature, and doing what is right, even if it's wrong. So, for example, he was against slavery, so he didn't pay his taxes, even though he was supposed to, because he knew that his taxes were going to go to fund the U.S.-Mexican War. And if we won that war, which we did, it was going to open it up to slavery, and he was against slavery. So doing what is right even though it's wrong. That was Henry David Thoreau, civil disobedience. Ralph Waldo Emerson was another one who said, you know what, we need to go to nature. We need to get away from these factories and pollution and poor conditions. And we need to start thinking about what's right and our nature and living a more simple life. So that concludes the age of reform. There are other reform movement leaders that fought against slavery, but we're going to be talking about those in Causes of the Civil War, which is also known as sectionalism. Thank you so much. Again, my name is Mrs. B. Gonzalez, and I hope to see you on the next one.